Oh, the people's main event. Tony Ferguson technically beats number 4 Donald Cerrone. This has to be for a title fight, or so you think. I thought that anything else would be an embarrassment to the sport nature of MMA, but there's a lot more to this. Oh boy. Ferguson is just not quite appreciated as he should be. Cerrone's hair was something. Both of these guys just looked ready to get hit. They both exchange, especially jabs, would slide to the outside and kept catching each other. The thing about Tony Ferguson, he's always been a very hittable fighter, and Cerrone capitalized on that in the first round. That's just Ferguson. He's always been hittable. Then he does some moonsault, head scissors, 450 roll to get into something else. Cerrone got the best of the exchanges in the first round until I thought that Ferguson rocked him. Then in round 2, you saw Cerrone get weathered because Ferguson ain't slowing down. And I don't know that we've ever seen Cerrone tired. We've seen him rocked a little bit by Lando Venata, but we've never seen him tired. And that really showed in round 2. Tony Ferguson's cardio is, I want to say it's intimidating and horrifying because it's almost like he doesn't know how to be tired. He's got these weird-ass training methods, and he does all this crazy shit that shouldn't work and comes back from injuries that he shouldn't come back from. Or at least shouldn't come back from in the amount of time that he does. It should be a danger, but he does. Oh, man. But Ferguson just tore it up. Tore it up in the second round. Poured it on Cerrone. Amazing. Cerrone landed a head kick. Ferguson followed up with a spinning elbow. Cerrone was way more weathered. Managed a quick takedown, but Ferguson got back up. Then at the end of round 2, Ferguson landed a shot well after the bell. Well after the bell. Now, here's the thing. Ferguson's probably in the zone, understandable nature of him. It was well after the bell. Dan Miragliotta should have been there to keep them separated. Donald Cerrone goes to the corner, blows his nose, and his eye swells shut. Well, when you have a broken nose, and it's an elementary thing, man. You learn it early on, and Donald Cerrone even said as much. You've got a broken nose, you're trying to get that air, and you blow your nose, your eye's going to swell up. Well, it swelled up to the point to where the fight was called. They called for the replay to see what caused it, and they said, oh, well, the punch wasn't in the eye, so that's not what caused it. Well, hold on, homeboy. Tony Ferguson, after the bell, punched Donald Cerrone in the nose. The nose is what led to Donald Cerrone blowing his nose and having his eye swollen up. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to pretend that I am a hip to the regulations surrounding that. That's a chain reaction. Like, nobody made Donald Cerrone blow his nose. He did that on his own. But he could very well argue that punch from Ferguson after the bell is what caused him to need to blow his nose. Now, I had a lot of people saying, oh, who cares if they stopped the fight? Ferguson was going to win in the third. We don't do fights like that. We don't run it on hypotheticals. We've seen a lot crazier happen. We saw Tim Boach lose for 2 rounds, push Yushin Okami against the cage, and use European uppercuts to beat him. European uppercuts. We've seen Pat Barry and Chet Congo knock each other out multiple times in a fight. We've seen Anderson Silva win fights, jump on the cage, then come back to lose fights. In that third round, Tony Ferguson could have pivoted the wrong way, torn his ACL. You don't say, oh, well, this would have happened, because you don't know. You just don't know. Tony Ferguson, all class in this situation. He said, talk to Donald Cerrone first. He said, I didn't want to win this way. I don't know how to feel about the call because, man, this is one. I've got an opinion on damn near everything, guys. I don't know how to really say that. Joe Rogan mentioned on the broadcast that Dana was already trying to line up the rematch between Tony and Donald. Do you think they should fight again or should Tony move on? Here's my thing. If Tony wants to move on, Tony should be allowed to move on. That's where I am on this. You can say all the things you want about his personal life, all that stuff. If we're talking about in the cage, we're talking about a guy who has technically won 12 fights in a row. We're talking about a guy who's 15-1 in the UFC, 18-1 if you count the Ultimate Fighter. And I do count the Ultimate Fighter because he won those fights via finish. He didn't like cruise to a 1 or 2 round decision. 18-1 under the UFC banner. Oh, by the way, 7, maybe 8 of those fights in a row were either for a title or they were performance of the nights, fights of the nights. The man is a surefire UFC Hall of Famer. It should be up to Tony Ferguson. If he feels it that he needs to do that, then do it. If he feels like he needs a rematch with Cerrone for himself, for the fans, whatever reason, I'm good with that. If he wants that title shot, it's his. You know why? Because he's deserved it for a long time. And you know what he hasn't done? He hasn't sat on the sidelines. I mean, he got hurt and he missed a year. He beat Anthony Pettis. He beat Donald Cerrone. He's fought in 2 non-title fights since he got stripped of a title that he never lost. I got a lot of respect for that. Now, here's the thing. If for some reason this fight ends up being 5 rounds, that does not bode well for Donald Cerrone based on what we saw tonight. Should be on Tony Ferguson's terms. Based on his winning streak, based on the trajectory of the fight tonight, based on the fact that he never lost the title, that's what I think. It should be on Tony Ferguson's terms. Dana White confirmed, apparently. I'm going to check this on the Fightful MMA Twitter account. By the way, follow us at Fightful MMA.